edit. Here.
Okay, my passengers are here. I gotta go.
Hey, and welcome. I'm Dave, and you are listening to Life Is Peachy, a nostalgia-fueled podcast that allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and albums that became the soundtrack to my life. Growing up in the 90s, the early 2000s, and while we're at it, sharing a few memories from Her Name Is Murder Productions. So here we are, the beginning of season 3 and just over 2 years of the Life Is Peachy podcast.
Wow.
This experience has been something near and dear to me on many levels and for many reasons. Having the opportunity to deep dive into albums and artists that help shape and define my existence as a kid growing up is honestly a dream come true. And to connect with you right now, that community and connection with each other and ourselves through music is what this is all about.
We can work it out.
I never thought the bands whose posters lined my bedroom wall when I was younger would be some of the artists I actually get to work with through Her Name Is Murder Productions or the guests on my show.
Excellent.
And today is no exception to the lip rule of thumb to create episodes based around albums from bands that have changed my life, grown up with me, or take me back to a special, special place.
If we're gonna go any further, we're gonna discuss it. Or you can go alone.
I'll go alone.
No, that's not good enough.
The late 90s was an exciting time in general for music and cinema. It was a buffet of creativity and monumental landmark releases across the board.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
But little did I know that in 1999, a self-titled album from a band called Amen would impact me in a way like never before.
Prime, you can't die.
Do not grieve. Soon, I shall be one with the Matrix.
Amen is, well, as it's nearly been 20 years since their last album, one could even argue that Amen was an American band formed in Los Angeles all the way back in 1994. Founded by frontman, singer and songwriter Casey Chaos, their sound accumulated elements of punk and hardcore and an array of other heavy genres into that musical blender to produce something unlike anything else. Well, at least that's what the case was for me back in 1999 at the time of their Roadrunner Records self-titled outing, Amen. Following the release of their 1994 debut Slave, Casey would eventually meet producer Ross Robinson and go on to sign with Roadrunner Records through Ross's recently developed imprint label known as I Am Recordings.
Is that gasoline I smell?
No, man. No!
And most likely thanks to the mammoth success of Sepultura's Roots, Ross would work with many bands signed to Roadrunner, including Max Calavera's Soulfly debut in 1998, Machine Head's The Burning Red, and under his own Roadrunner distributed label, the likes of Glassjaw's Everything You've Ever Wanted to Know About Silence, and both Slipknot and Amen's self-titled debut albums.
That's a lot of nuts!
Amen first fell into my lap thanks to a Roadrunner Records CD sampler by the name of Heavy, Bend Your Knees, and through a demo of Coma America from their upcoming Roadrunner debut.
Thanks for the advice.
To first set the scene.
Welcome to the party, pal!
I started high school in 1998. To say that both 98 and 1999 was a completely amazing period of time for Roadrunner would be probably the understatement of the year. Leading up to Heavy, Bend Your Knees, to name a few, the label had released Cold Chamber's chamber music, The Burning Red, Vision of Disorder's Imprint, World Coming Down from Typo Negative, Fear Factory's Obsolete, and of course Sepultura's almighty Derek Green debut. And on top of this, Bend Your Knee showcased more of what was hot off the press from the label, along with what to look forward to before the end of the century. The band and track listing for this CD sampler read as follows.
Heavy, Bends Your Knees, Roadrunner Records CD compilation jukebox.
Out, Lie No Limits from 98's very fun and highly unknown Exposition. I mentioned this Colin Richardson produced album all the way back in episode 1 of the podcast. Be sure to check this one out, it's a lot of fun. Spineshank, Stovebolt from their label debut Strictly Diesel. Slipknot, and a rough mix of what would become Surfacing from 99's self-titled debut. Fear Factory and their cover of Cars, which would appear on the Digipack release of Obsolete, an album which turns 25 this year. Next up, we had a track from Soulfly's self-titled debut, Boomba, another album hitting the Big 2-5 in 2023. And if all of that wasn't already impressive enough, the sampler closed off with a demo of Coma America from Amen.
Bring the ship.
As earlier described, Amen's sound mostly derived from a punk sound and, more importantly, a punk mentality. But with Ross Robinson at the helm, stationed behind the analog desk at Indigo Ranch, this album and this band, to me at least, is much more than that.
This is for the suffer. This is for the proof. This is for the lover. Soaking in the truth. This is for the liar. This is for the dream. This is for America. Burn out the cities. Cut off.
I would go as far to label this as new punk, a unique blend of punk and new metal delivered and gift wrapped with a punk rock ethos. Unexpectedly and without warning, I was completely blindsided, and for a period of time, this band was everything to me. They became mine, and I found myself on a mission to fall into complete obsession and wave the flag of Amen on a day-to-day basis.
Coma America. Coma America. Coma America.
But why them? Well, this involves the ensuing who, what, and where. At this point in time, as a label responsible for releasing top-tier music that ticked all of my boxes, Roadrunner Records could do absolutely no wrong. They were godlike, untouchable, and without compare. Not since has a record label been so responsible for guiding, nurturing, and expanding my journey and adventure with music. Roadrunner has given me, and I'm sure most listening right now, a countless number of bands and releases that sit up at the absolute top. For me, they are the Everest, the pinnacle, and I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't thanks in a large part to Roadrunner Records. So when Bend Your Knees came to me, I was at the height of my romance with the label. Subscribed to their magazine Outsider and quite literally purchasing nearly everything released under their name. Even if I had no idea what it was or sounded like, this CD sampler alone would give me the first taste of new music from Max Calavera post Sepultura and introduced me to Out, Spineshank, Slipknot, and Amen. What a wild sentence. And this brings me to Amen. Upon first listen to Coma America, this was not something I would normally jump to, but there were so many signs pointing to it that I had to give it a chance. Starting with the most obvious, that being that it was officially part of my most trusted record label catalogue. Amen was produced by none other than Ross Robertson, who up to and around that time, on Roadrunner alone, had worked with Sepultura, Soulfly, Machine Head, Glassjaw, Slipknot, and along with all said albums, each was recorded at the one and only Indigo Ranch. Throw into the mix album cover and inlay photography handled by none other than Dean Carr, and a band lineup featuring some members from Snot. 1999 would introduce to the world what I refer to as the classic era, the classic Amen lineup. Shannon Larkin on drums, bassist John Funnestock aka Tumor, and guitarist Paul Fig and Sonny Mayo would join Casey Chaos to complete the band. And now, after all of that information, if you're wondering why the name Sonny Mayo sounds so darn familiar, well, where do I start? He played with Shannon Larkin and Lynn Strait in MF Pitballs. Was of course Guitar Brothers alongside Life Is Peachy alumni Mikey Doling and Amen bassist Tumor in Snot. Co-wrote and recorded on Vanilla Ice's Hard to Swallow. Officially replaced fellow Lip alumni Chad Benakos and toured Head Planet Earth's Blackout. Likewise with Clint Lowry in Sevendust, with 3 releases between 2005 and 2008, and various stints and accolades with Ugly Kid Joe. Smack bang in the middle of all of this is Amen.
Start the music.
His time in the band from 1998 through to 2002 would see the official release of 2 albums, including the major label sophomore We Have Come For Your Parents. I always love saying this part out loud. It's an absolute honor to have Sonny Mayo join episode 22 of the Life Is Peachy Podcast to look back on nearly 25 years of Amen self-titled. Sonny, thank you for your time and energy and joining us today.
Thank you so much. Wow.
must feel like a lifetime ago, right?
My God, it was, yeah.
Say something for the record. Tell the people what you feel. Fuck the record and fuck the people.
Leading up to Amen, I mean, in retrospect, you were already a part of so much music history and legacy with Silence, MF Pitbulls, and of course, Snot. But when you're already in a band like Snot, with the fan love and on the cusp of something so great, how did it come to be, that transition with you entering Amen and becoming a member of that classic era lineup?
Yeah, man, this is a trippy part of my story because it's dark. It's actually pretty dark. It was dark for me at the time. So I moved to Santa Barbara, California to join the band Snot in 1995. We were, I've never really sugarcoated it, but I mean, we were volatile, man. Lynn Straight was this incredible human being who would either love you to death or hate you to death, but he was going to kill you. That's how I look at it. And man, we had a torrid relationship, Lynn Straight and I. We loved each other and we wanted to kill each other. Mikey and I have that too. But I have a sister, I don't have any brothers, but it was like that, man. It was like brothers. And we played so well together, man. If you saw Snot back in the day when it was the original 5, I mean, we're like, holy shit. Nobody wanted to play after us. We toured with Sevendust for quite a while, obviously when I was still in Snot. And they were selling 5,000 records a week, and we were selling like, I don't know, 1,000. They're like, we're not playing after you guys. We're like, more people are here to see you. And they're like, no, we're not going on after you. It was like this beautiful volatility, man, where we came together. There's this alloy of just power. And then when we was like, we weren't on stage or whatever, we just were falling apart, man. And I was an active drug addict at the time. I'm an inactive drug addict now. I'm a alcohol/addict. For 20 years, I've been clean and sober.
Yeah, I just read that recently. Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
It's a huge milestone.
It's something, man. It's something. Yeah. I wouldn't have much of a life, I don't think, if I weren't clean and sober for 20 years. It'd be much different, that's for sure. But I was not in a good place, David. I was lost, bro. I was a 24, 25, 26-year-old dude who was just lost, man. I was trying to figure out how to drink and use the way I thought I wanted to, which was really I was a slave. I didn't really want to do that. I was condemned to do it because of my state. And the relationships between the band members was just falling apart. And I mean, sadly, Lynn Straight, also a drug addict, was very open about it, really. I mean, there's a song called Tecato. Literally, it means junkie or like needle in like Spanglish. Tecato is like the sharp point. Lynn would get arrested for robbery and would be in jail in Santa Barbara, and he'd be coming off heroin. And they're like, Orale, Tecato. And they'd say, ¿Qué tienes en tu culo? No puedes caca, Holmes. It means, what's up with your ass that you can't shit? What's up? Because when you're coming off heroin, you're constipated. He was very open about it, and that's ultimately what killed him in that sad, terrible car crash, tragic death of Lynn Straight and Dobbs, his dog.
I'm Kurt Loder with MTV News. Singer James Lynn Straight of the hardcore band Snot was killed along with his dog Dobbs, the band's mascot and cover canine, in a 6-car collision in California last Friday afternoon.
I'll just own my part. I was falling apart with these guys, and so I was tight with Ross Robinson of, Life Is Peachy, and is that First Chord record? That's self-titled too, isn't it?
Yeah, self-titled.
We were friends, and we had done a song, actually. We did a brand new song. It was the last song Snot ever recorded with the 5 original members.
Absent, right?
Absent, yeah.
My favorite Snot song, man.
One of mine too, man. One of my favorite. Yeah.
Nice.
That was a dark time, bro. That wasn't a cool couple days, but we came together as wild. And so I was talking to Ross, and Ross goes, hey, man, I got this band, Amen. and I'm looking for an amazing drummer. Like, we really need a drummer. He's like, you got anybody? And I had my friend Shannon Larkin, who I played in MF Pitbulls with, who was the kingpin, who still is the kingpin. He's the guy that even made it possible for the 5 members of Snot, the OG 5 members of Snot, to come together, because Shannon and I and John Fonestock and Jamie Miller played in MF Pitbulls together in the early 90s. And then Shannon moved to Santa Barbara to join Ugly Kid Joe in 94, met the guys in Snot, specifically Mikey Doling. And Mikey was like, man, I got this band, I got this idea I want to do, but I don't have the players. And Shannon's like, I got you, bro. Showed him this videotape of MF Pitbulls. At first, it was like, we need a bass player. So they tapped John Toomer Fonestock. And then a few months later, Mikey's like, hey, man, I think we should add another guitar player. And John was like, I got the guy.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Now it seems that there are no easy answers to the same old questions I've been posed.
When we were getting a record deal, it was actually me that was like, we need a new drummer, man. Our boy is not cutting it. I was like, we gotta get Jamie Miller. And so we brought Jamie Miller in, right? So, having said that, back to Shannon, it was 98, and Ugly Kid Joe broke up. Shannon was looking for a gig. So Shannon auditioned, and then, bro, I was not in a good way with Lynn, and Shannon calls me up, and he's like, bro, I'm joining that band, Amen, and we're looking for another guitar player. And he probably wasn't trying to poach me necessarily, but when he said it, I was like, oh shit, I can be in a band with Shannon. The truth is, I probably was just running, like I was probably running away. And so I auditioned for Amen, and they were all, yeah, dude, let's do this. And so I left Snot, and I did it the day after we recorded Absent. Who was absent?
Well, I must love your punk ass to the floor. Stupid motherfucker, that the butter buster still talking shit.
I had left Snot in 98, and then they did Ozfest, the guy called Mike Smith. I was in Amen, and then when Ozfest was over, Jamie Miller and Mike Smith left Snot. They left the band, out, and had another band that they did with Amy Echo, who's Jamie's wife. Incredible human being as well. I love them. The two of them together, we affectionately refer to, well, at least I do, as Ja-Amy. Jamie and Amy. See how clever I am?
Oh, I see what you did.
And the guys in Snot had some songs written, and they said, hey, we want to hire you to play drums on this record. And so Shannon had a kid on the way. Shannon's like, hey guys, I'm going to do this also. And we couldn't be like, no, dude, you can't. But it was a little weird. It was a little awkward. But then they had 2 shows lined up. The Key Club in Hollywood and a place called, I think it was The Barn in Riverside, California. They called Shannon and said, hey, Shannon, will you play these 2 shows with us? And Shannon, being the fucking OG that he is, goes, only if Sonny does them. I don't know what their reaction was, but I got a phone call. Hello? Hey, Sonny. Yeah? This is Lynn. Now, the last time I had spoken to Lynn Straight, he threw a can of soda at me or something because I quit the band, because I quit Snot. It's not a proud moment of mine. That is not a proud moment of mine, FYI. I definitely regret making that decision. I still do. I'm still like, man. But who knows what would have happened, because Lynn Straight was still going to die. He wouldn't have lived just because I stayed in the band. Who knows what would have happened. Bums me out that that happened that way, but I'm so grateful that I got to redeem my relationship. Because I was in Amen at Indigo Ranch. Lynn calls me and he's like, hey man, how you doing? And I was like, I'm doing great. I'm in Indigo Ranch. And Lynn had just been in Rolling Stone magazine because he had come out of Limp Bizkit's
the toilet.
Funny story, I ran into a neighbor of mine and we were talking and he's like, yeah, I'm a builder. I build sets and I build all these things. And hey, I built a giant prop for Limp Bizkit one time. And I was like, wait. What? And he goes, yeah, I built this giant toilet. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I have a story for you. I built the fucking toilet that Lynn came out of with a dominatrix blowing him on stage. Dude, what is going on here, bro?
Shit, it's a small
I said, hey,
world.
congratulations on being in Rolling Stone. And he goes, yeah, it's great. My band's falling apart. And I was like, I hear you, bro. And he goes, hey, man, no hard feelings, man. I want to squash this thing and hopefully we can be friends. And I was like, oh, that'd be great, man. He said, I want you to play those last 2 shows with us, will you? And I said, yeah, I will. I think Mikey had called me first. We had kind of worked it out. I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly. It's been 24 years.
Yeah.
He and I talked and squashed it. And I played the last 2 shows that Snot ever played, man. I wasn't in the band again, but I wrote a song and played on a song on straight up album. It's right after Absent, which is the last song we recorded together as the original lineup. And I wrote the song called Sad Air.
This album is a tribute and a celebration of Lynn's life, from his friends and all his peers. We all miss you, Lynn. I'll see you on the other side. God bless you always. Love, Ozzy.
That recording of Lynn talking about addiction, my friend Ro Coley had recorded it, had actually done the interview.
I'm addicted, period. You know? I mean, like... And it's weird because so much of the population is addicted.
And so I played the last 2 shows with Snot, man, while I was still in Amen. And I don't know, maybe if they kept going, maybe I would have. Who knows, right? And the last conversation I got to have with him was just shooting the shit. Just 2 friends shooting the shit, man. And literally 2 days later, he was dead.
What a beautiful thing, though, to reconnect before his passing and to not have your last encounter with each other being a fight or negative.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for the both of you, man.
Thanks, dude, yeah. And I got to do a eulogy at his funeral, read a poem that I had written about him. I was just writing a poem about my friend dying, and then they were like, hey, will you read a eulogy? And I was all, uh-huh. I'm so thankful I didn't walk up there and go, yeah, Lynn, and I were, I actually just read this poem. It was rad.
It's always this great feeling of need. It doesn't necessarily have to be of anything in particular. It's just something that you don't know what it is, which drives you that much more insane and things like that.
Considering all the intense circumstances surrounding the period of time when you joined Amen, do you recall a first moment or when something clicked for you and you were like, yeah, this feels right, this was a good choice that I've made for myself?
There was, yeah. I mean, it did take a minute, and it was a bit of the Casey Chaos show. It was more about Casey and the Iggy Pop kind of vibe. Iggy and the Stooges was really about Iggy, right? You could see it with Amen after all of us left.
Well, it's just a revolving door of members after that.
I can't even say we were original members.
Yeah, but I would definitely call it the classic era lineup.
We were the original, recording artists on the first 2 records. The original lineup, you might say, right? Because we were firing on all cylinders. It was special. That's what it was. And I mean, I'm going to go ahead and attribute it to a 3-piece called Shannon Larkin, Sonny Mayo, and John Fonestock. Because we brought the heat, bro. East Coast fucking fire, man, the 3 of us. And then, you got my boy Paul Fig, who was the other guitar player. Sweetest, best dude in the entire world, who's now a very successful audio engineer. Grammy nominations for records like The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here by Alice in Chains. That's right. He was the engineer on that record, under Nick Raskulinecz. But Paul Fig was the other guitar player, man. The sweetest guy in the world. Did you ever watch Some Kind of Monster with Metallica?
Yeah, definitely.
Remember how rad Kirk was?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's Paul.
Paul Fig, man. Kirk was like, hey guys, come on, man, don't talk to each other like that. Let's go, come on. And that's Paul, dude. To this day, he's the raddest guy ever, man.
If you don't play a guitar solo in one of these songs, that dates it to this period.
Klaus Eichstadt's like that too. From Ugly Kid Joke. Every band needs a Fig and a Klaus. And they're not just nice, they're kind. And so, I tell you, it took a minute, man, for me to settle into it. We basically went right into pre-production for that first record, and dozens of songs, dude. Dozens of songs. So I learned all these songs, and
I mean, it really is, to me, all about serving the song, and, I feel much better about that.
The timeline's crazy, dude, because Lynn passed away 6 months later. And that's when John Fonestock, when Snot ended, because Lynn died, we were like, yo, come and join our band. And as tragic as it is, it was a perfect transition. We were comfortable with him and whatever. And John actually went on to play with Casey after Shannon and I left, and Paul. Multiple times, off and on, I think, right? Yeah. I haven't really followed Amen after I left. I was like, yeah, I'm out. Peace. We'll get to that. Because back to the question, I do remember the original question was when it felt like it kind of clicked. The reason that I brought, I'm a talker if you didn't recognize. I mean, somebody's like, hey, I'll interview you. I'm like, how much time you got? Woo! Hey, you asked. It's really great memory, actually. So we started tracking, and now I'm a rhythm guitar player by nature. Like, I grew up with James Hetfield. I saw that dude play. I already played guitar, but it was like gutter metal. It was like Motley Crue and some glam, like Dokken, and I was into the Scorpions and Kiss. And I was learning these songs and shit as a 13, 14-year-old. And then I heard Metallica. 15 years old, I heard Metallica, Master of Puppets. And then I saw some video footage, and I was like, that right hand, dude. I was like, oh my God, that's it right there. I was a Hetfield disciple, right hand heaviness, bro. And I was always known as like this really tight, precise guitarist. That's why playing with guitar players like Mikey Doling was a perfect balance, because Mikey's loose and on fire and just like just spraying fire everywhere. And I come in with the laser precision shit, right?
That's cool.
He spreads fire across the thing, and I come in and hit the target. And so that's how we were, right? And so I was like that with Amen too. Paul Fig was real loose. But what happened is, as we're in the studio recording with Ross would turn around and look at me. Amen was punk. It is punk. It's metal as fuck too in some way, but it's punk. And so Ross would look at me and go, dude, it's too clean. It's too precise. And I was like, oh shit. For a second, I was like, fuck this, man. You're full of shit, dude. The notion was that I wasn't feeling it. I was like, dude, I am fucking crushing this. And he's like, yeah, but it's a different kind of crush that we're looking for from you. And I realized it this particular day. We were out at Indigo Ranch. I was staying out there because I was basically homeless, dude. I was houseless. I wasn't homeless. I did have a physical address, but barely. And sometimes I look back and that was some of the most fun I've ever had was then, because I didn't give a shit. Sometimes I look back on it and I go, I didn't have any money. How did I eat? And I don't recall. I wasn't like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It was more like, what's next? It was interesting. I never slept outside, if I slept at all. But I'd lived at Indigo while we were doing those records. And so one day, it was just me and Ross and like the assistant engineer. And maybe you might have had a homie hanging out with us. But it's out in the middle of Malibu. And we had guitar tracks to do. It was me and Ross were recording that day. And Ross is like, hey man, let's go on a hike real quick before we do your tracks. And I wasn't in shape. I mean, I've always been lean, but I wasn't exercising at the time. My exercise was being on stage. And so we go off on this trail, and we literally go off the trail down this crazy embankment, dude, that had to be like 60 degrees. Ross is nuts and awesome. It's fucking so rad. And then we try to run as fast as we could back up the thing. So we're running up these rocks and climbing up this hill. And dude, I reached a point of utter exhaustion. Like, I got to the top of this hill, back to the trail that led back to the house. And I just like, I puked all over the place. Everything came up. And Ross was like, yeah. It was so metal. He was like, yeah. He was so excited about me puking all over the place. And he's like, let's go, man. We got to go record right now. was like, and he's like, come on. And I went in the room and I drank maybe some water or something, and he put a guitar on me. And he's like, let's go. And he turned it up so loud. So you can hear, like, I got to really be tight and precise, yet so volatile, so unhinged at the same time. I'm killing it, and somehow I'm like, this shit's coming out of me. I'm just like, ah!
Let off some steam, Bennett.
And then we finish, and Ross goes, we're going to do that every time before you record guitars from now on. Great. Oh, no. Working with that dude was so awesome. I did a bunch of stuff with Ross, and he would hire me later to do percussion. He would hire me to come back and do percussion on records because he wants the real shit. He's like, I want a heartbeat, man. I need your heart. And I was like, I got you, bro. It was almost as though he would rip your heart out of you and show it to you and go, come on, dude, this is yours. Come and get it. Take your heart back, right? It was awesome working with that guy.
If I am ever to reincarnate, I'd love to come back as a fly on the wall inside Indigo Ranch.
There's some definite memories.
Can you share maybe some more memories from your time there?
Dude, I got so many.
Awesome. What was a typical day in the studio for you with A-Man and the self-titled debut at Indigo Ranch with Ross Robinson?
Yeah, man. So check it out. One day we were in there. And so what Ross would do, which I think is brilliant, man, he still does it to a degree. I know he uses Pro Tools and all the digital stuff, but he still has analog pedals, and he commits to that shit. So he's on the floor in front of you, and he commits to a sound. He actually commits, like, this is the sound. That's what kind of fucks everybody up, or makes some of the digital recording processes slower in many ways. Not because of tape and stuff, like we had tape back then, but because of not being able to commit to an actual sound. Because maybe we can change the reverb a little bit, or we can, let's put a little bit different pitch shift on this. And so it gets kind of overwhelming, that too many options, where he would go, this is it. So what he would do is he'd have everybody in the room with the drummer while the drummer's recording. So with Ross, we would all be in the room with Shannon. The way that it's kind of done these days is very compartmentalized. In fact, with Snot, some of the stuff, Jamie Miller didn't even have us in his headphones. He had a click track going. We were playing with him. We did that because we wanted to do that. But Ross was like, you got to play this shit like you're on stage at whatever club or whatever venue. We need to capture the thing. Almost like back in the day, the way Led Zeppelin and all of them would do it is they would do 6 takes, and they would choose one of the takes. Let's go with take 3, it sounds good. And they would all play together. The cabinet would be in the room. The soloed tracks, you can hear some guitar in the drum tracks because he's in the same room. And nowadays, everything is so clean and so quiet and muted, and I love that stuff too. I love that stuff. And there's another form of art. It's like a different way of painting or a different way of dancing or singing, right? But This is the one day in particular, we were just crushing it. Ross was like, we could crush it harder. We were like, what?
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
I'm like doing some noisy wah pedal part in one of the Amen songs, and he wanted us to go off so hard that we put the headphones on, and then he would cut fabric and make headbands to tie the headbands around so we could actually still headbang with the headphones flying off. He's like, you have to do this. And I'm like, okay. If you see video of it, we all have these fucking headbands around the headphones on our heads. Every single one of us had that. Ross fucking comes over. I'm playing this crazy wah-wah part, and he comes over, and you can hear him yell. You can actually hear it on the recordings too. And he comes over, and he literally clotheslines me. Like, I kept my foot hammered down on the wah pedal, so I'm laying on the floor, like wrestling around with Ross with my guitar, playing this wah pedal part. And I fucking loved it. Some people are like, if somebody clotheslined me, I'm like, bro, it was punk rock, man. One of the most bonding moments. I can look at Ross Robinson now and go, hey, man, remember that time? And he'll look at me and be like, that's experience, man. That's a moment in time that is so very unique and so individual. I'm glad that I had it. I don't know what it would be like if I hadn't had it, but man, I had it. And it's like, yeah, dude. And there were so many like that.
It's not necessary for you to ever tell me that you think I'm right. Ever. We'll assume it. Dismissed.
One time I changed my strings on my guitar before recording, and Ross was like, it sounds too bright. So we went outside and broke off a piece of like an aloe plant, like rubbed it all over my fucking strings on my Les Paul, and I was like, what the? And he's like, it's gonna sound better, dude. But we would kill it, man, and Casey would record vocals right there too, and at least on the first record, even when Casey did vocals, like went back to do overdubs, we still used a 57, which is like a grenade of a microphone. Could drive 50 miles an hour, throw that thing out a window, pick it up, plug it in, and it would still be just fine. There were times when multiple bands that Ross was producing, those bands being Amen, Machine Head, and Slipknot, our first record, Slipknot's first record, and
The Burning Red.
Burning Red, thank you. There were times when there were multiple people from multiple bands at the studio at the same time, doing more like overdubs and stuff like that. So for those who may not be aware, you go in and you set down the main tracks, like you do all the drums, all your bass, you do all your rhythm guitars and your vocals, and then you come in and do like what we refer to as overdubs. At least we did back then. And so you come in, you do all the leads, unless you did them live or something like that. You're cleaning stuff up. You're like, you know what we need in this part is a tambourine. So say I was at Indigo Ranch after we did the record or whatever, but I come back up because we wanted to do percussion. Man, me and Ross just on percussion, we'd spend an entire day. So I'd go in and I'd do tambourine on 3 songs, which may sound funny, but I think the song Mayday.
From We Have Come For Your Parents.
Right, so Mayday has aggressive tambourine. And then, say, Chris and Sean from Slipknot come in and would do percussion, the kick drums where they play the percussion for a couple Slipknot songs. And then Rob, Flynn, and Aru would come in and do a couple leads or maybe some extra overdubs for guitars. That happened on multiple occasions. And mind you, we were using 2-inch tape. So those dudes, the guys who worked there, Ross, and then there was a guy called Chuck. I think the other engineer was named Rob. We ended up calling him the Postman because he went postal a couple times, got super pissed, and was like, man, fuck all this, right? And started yelling. So we were like, oh man, he's going postal. Those engineers, man, guys who are like actual, like legit engineers from back in the day with those analog boards and all that stuff, they're engineers. I mean, they might like to hang out and smoke weed and drink beers, but they are hyper intelligent.
You gotta conjure the thing that's just screaming to come out of you. Screaming, dying to come out of you. This is it. Everything that you've ever loved has to come through right now. This is all we have. This is all we have. We have nothing else. We don't even get to keep our fucking bodies. But this lasts.
Those dudes were taking 2-inch reel-to-reel tapes and loading them up, you know, and then let me get the Wait and Bleed Slipknot reel number 3. And they go again, and you gotta load the machine up, you know, all this stuff. And then, okay, let's take that off, and then let's get this song going for Amen. We didn't necessarily keep the guitar tracks. They were more like what we would call scratch tracks. But sometimes we did keep them because there were some crazy sounds or cool performances, even some vocals that we would keep too. And then we would move to guitars, and like Casey and I would be real busy on it. Different days would lay out differently. And we wouldn't just stick to like the typical way that we used to do records is you'd do all the drums, all the bass, all the guitars, all the vocals. We would mix and match. Like we didn't do it that way.
Well, talking about picking up unique guitar sounds on the guitar scratch, I just have to say one of the reasons I love this album so much is because of those very obscure, interesting, crazy noises. They all contribute towards making this album's sound and atmosphere such a standalone experience.
Totally.
Even in comparison to We Have Come For Your Parents, which you could argue is in some ways more of a polished mainstream Amen sound, as much as that's possible, with a punk release that's still very much giving the middle finger to everything and everyone.
Fuck the record and fuck the people. I've got solution. I've got the club. Got the change up a balance got
I totally agree with you. Polished is a fine word. What it really means to me is it's more consistent, because what happened is We Have Come For Your Parents. We brought in Mike Frazier. That was somebody that actually Casey specifically had heard AC/DC records. It was like, we're going to destroy our instruments and all the things, but we want legit engineering. Casey wasn't into the equipment at Indigo Ranch. He's like, this isn't the sound that I want. We moved from Indigo Ranch to Sound City, which is where we did We Have Come For Your Parents. You got Mike Frazier on that killer, famous console. Killing the game, dude. Getting the sweetest, most pure signals from instruments while chaos is ensuing around it. It's clean and destructive, right? If you listen to the first 2 Korn records, which, I mean, I'm sure you have because your podcast is called Life Is Peachy. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, man. Listen to those first 2 Korn records. Listen to the Limp Bizkit record. Not just the feeling that Ross helped them convey, but the sounds. It sounds vintage and kind of old, but somehow new.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's so unique and a sound stamp to that time, place, and era. That atmosphere. That's also one of the huge things that's so special about a lot of those releases. It's that sound, right?
Word. It all sounds like that. It has that sound. First Amen record, first Slipknot record, Burning Red, and the Vanilla Ice record too. Roots by Sepultura. Besides the Andy Wallace mix on that record, because that kind of puts it on its own.
Yeah.
That Roots record is so good. But there is this raw, unstable vibe to it. You're like, this is going to explode in a second, right? That's Ross at Indigo Ranch. With the self-titled, the recording process was kind of broken up, so we didn't have the same sounds every time. You bring the same drum kit, put the same microphones on it 1 week, and then you break it down and come back 2 months later, put the same mics on it, same exact settings that you have all mapped out, and it still sounds different.
What did you think and feel about the album once it was released onto the world and then to start playing those songs live?
I don't remember being that cognizant of it. I think we were probably already on tour. But I can tell you this, I knew that we had a cool trajectory going. I can tell you this. This is the eve of the album, but really it was the eve of like the quest, the adventure. I knew we were going to go to Europe. I knew we were going to do well in Europe. I knew we all had a feeling that we were not going to do well in the States, which we didn't. It just wasn't, people didn't, I don't know. A lot of people didn't get it. We didn't do well here at all. There was no mainstream about it. There was no radio. There was nothing.
Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste. But when Sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own, commercially and artistically.
My excitement was to go to Australia and New Zealand and Europe. That's really what I was stoked on. And we did quite well over there.
Talking about not connecting with the American audience, I would actually love to talk about your connection with the music of Amen. Because obviously you were coming from bands like Snot, where you were a part of contributing to the writing process. And of course, we'll also talk about Vanilla Ice's Hard to Swallow a little later. Now, my question is, what was it like for you to record and perform songs written by someone else? In this case, that being Casey Chaos. Was it a different experience for you, and were you able to connect to the music?
Well, thanks for bringing this up. Yeah, this is real conversation right here. Like, this is some stuff that people may not realize about guys in bands. I did connect with the music, man. I did. I will tell you, is that sometimes the stuff that we bring to the table is not used. And so I would bring some stuff and it would be considered too metal. You know the song Everything Is Untrue?
You know, that's my favorite Amen song.
Thank you, because I wrote some of that shit. I wrote a portion of that. That's my favorite Amen song too. And the pedal that we used on the verses is called a Mutron pedal, Mutron octave divider. Woo! Dude, when it goes into the verse, that fucking pedal, dude, is so great. Mutron. And so that, you know what I'm talking about, that guitar part? I wrote that.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that part, man.
Thanks, man, because they're kind of getting shit on by Casey and Ross when I wrote it. And I was like, what? It's funny. It was what? Because it's melodic?
I think I love that song so much because it had a slightly different vibe and something a little bit different about it. And there we go.
This is working out in my favor.
Now the world knows.
Myself can't feel no one else, and I just feed my God to the starving. Another kind of shape that fucking suck. You say that fucking line of shape. Another.
There's that 0.9% I'm getting from that record. Yeah, I've actually made like $12 on any Amen material. It was rough. It was rough, certainly at first, but man, I was not well. I was sick, dude. I was a drug addict. I was, at times, squatting in Hollywood. I lived in Paul Figg's dining room. That's how rad Paul Figg is. Hey, you can stay here, bro. It might have been a 6x9 or whatever dining room that I was sleeping on the floor. He was letting me sleep on the floor. I had a roll-out little cushion thing that I slept on. And I was doing meth and all the things, man. I was living Hollywood after-hours life. And so I sort of accepted my role as what I refer to as the translator. I was Casey Chaos's translator.
I just wanted to end your life.
I played, like, on every song guitar, but Casey also played on guitar too, because it had to have this feeling of falling apart, absolute destruction, which was the way Casey played. It's the fury. It was like he was drilling. It was insane how he plays guitar. And there's a vibe there, man. He would play something, he'd be like, yeah, like this riff. And then I was the one who look at it and listen. I go, this? And I would almost translate what he was trying to say with the guitar. Yeah. Do a little this on that part. You know, go to here instead of there. And I would translate what Casey was playing so we could tighten it up.
You trust me?
Of course I trust you.
In the studio with Ross, we would get buck wild. You know that song Please Kill Me off of
Death Before Music?
Yeah. I'm all over that record, by the way.
True.
Like, I played a bunch of the guitars on that, and I didn't get credit for it, and I don't care. It's okay. Because it's me. I'm killing it. Like, on California's Bleeding, that's your boy.
What? No way.
Dude, I played on a bunch of those songs. He didn't get any credit. For that, he can fuck himself. Like, with all due respect and love, whatever, that was a dick move. And I was like, I don't care. Whatever. Yeah, choke on it, bro. But you know that how the beginning goes... That was Ross and me in the studio with tape. And Ross would go, all right, we're going to do this weird intro. And Ross would spit out numbers to me. He'd go 3, and I go, jun. And he'd go 7, I go, jun. Go 3, 7, 2, 5. That's what it was. I'd go, jun. And so I did it on one side, and he'd keep throwing numbers at me. I don't know if I was hitting the numbers right. I was just jun. But we were vibing. We were like, yeah. So he recorded one side, and then he gave me different numbers for the other side. So it goes back and forth in this crazy... At one point, he was saying them so fast, I was like, dude, shit, I don't know where we are. And he slowly turns and looks at me, and he goes, we're right here. And I literally went, whoa. That was producing with Ross Robinson. I played a shitload of guitar on that record, by the way, a ton. That Third Amen record. Whatever. It don't matter.
Music was released in 2004 and to this day remains the last official album released from Amen. It spawned a single and a promotional video for California's Bleeding. Drummer Luke Johnson, who would later drum for Lost Prophets and No Devotion, joined the band around the time of the album's release and tour, but Death Before Music would go on to be Shannon Larkin's last recording performance with KC, despite already permanently joining Godsmack in 2002. Furthermore, Death Before Music would showcase an entirely new lineup, and once again, a new record deal, this time signing with System of a Down's Darren Malakian's Columbia Music imprint label, Eat Your Music. And as of 2023, as far as I'm aware, this was Eat Your Music's only release to date. From here, for me, everything was never really quite the same.
Sometimes to love someone, you gotta be a stranger.
The only band I have a tattoo of on my body is Amen. The United States with the pentagram over it, and then it says Amen, right? I wasn't necessarily political, but also I was, because I loved hardcore rap. Everything from NWA, Public Enemy, Ghetto Boys, all like the conscious shit. It was literally the same music, if you will, the same expression from two different socioeconomic, cultural backgrounds in the world, in the United States or in the world. It was against the man, against politics, against oppression, fuck you, right, all that stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So then Casey was really on that tip. Coma, America. I was all, yes. I felt so righteous and pissed. I was so anti-religious back then, man. We had these promo shirts. I still have it because it's posterity. We had promo shirts for the second record. They were long sleeve, mock turtlenecks with a little white collar sewed into them, like a priest collar. And it said, fuck your prayers. On the back it said, amen. They were promo shirts only. I wore that shit proudly, dude. I was so mad. I'm still not religious, and I still look at religion and I go, I feel like you guys are hurting more people than you might be helping. In the name of God, you perform atrocities. Still. And at the same time, I'm not screaming it from the stage and cursing all the things. But I really resonated with that. And I did, man. I felt the connection with the fury. That just absolute livid part of me came out with Casey on stage. I totally fucked up one day, man. I was playing Casey's 1971 Les Paul Custom. I can't believe he let me play this thing on tour. And we were going off so hard. We were in Texas. Our bus had actually caught on fire that day. We were opening. Wow. Amen was on tour with, from the headliner down, it was Coal Chamber, Machine Head, Slipknot, Amen. Wow. It was a legendary tour.
Living La Vida Loca, baby. Oh yeah. My God, yeah.
All Roadrunner bands at that time, like pretty much firing on all cylinders. We were first, man. You know, a bunch of like veterans or whatever. We were first. We were the first band.
So surreal, man. That damn lineup.
Slipknot, we hung out with those guys more than anybody. Those guys would always come to our bus because at the time they were new, right? And those guys would come to our bus because they could get away with like drinking and getting high and doing other shit. Because there was like a no partying policy, at least on their bus. It was like a band rule. They did not abide by that rule. They came to our house to do it. But yeah, so I'm on stage and I'm playing Casey's 71 Custom. Casey, we called Casey the Stomper on stage. You see it, he destroys the stage. Luckily for me, for the most part, he never said it, but he acted like this. He would never knock my amp over or intentionally kick my pedals or something like that or tackle me on stage. We would tangle whatever on stage for fun, but he would fucking knock Fig down. He would dive into Shannon's drums. But it's like he had to have the anchor. I was basically the anchor to just keep going, just keep the song going. And I could do that because I was that guy. I was that like right hand. I was rhythm. I could stay. I don't fucking need a metronome. I was like, shh. And then they put Shannon's drums back together and Shannon would come back in, right? I stand here 'cause I can't feel the pain. I don't know who's to blame. Let's count your fate to beat your section. The section that takes your conversation. Like to live the same. You're all the same inside home. Case will hit you on stage, man. So besides being the anchor, I hit back. He checked me one time and I kidney punched him. He loved it. He was like, yeah. And I was like, fucker. He got pissed at me one time because he'd come in all close, and to protect myself, like my body and my guitar, I would put my head down. So I basically would headbutt him as he came in. And one time he's like, hey man, stop headbutting me. I'm all, motherfucker, you're coming in and you're about to bite me in the chest. Like, what am I supposed to do? You're gonna eat my heart on stage. I'm like, get off me. First of all, I gotta keep playing this song. So he got so I would hit back. Fig and Toomer and John never hit back. Neither did Shannon. He weighs 112 pounds, fully clothed, dripping wet, and he is a monster. To this day, that dude is the most lyrical drummer. He speaks to us as he plays. He plays to the song. He's not like, check out how good of a drummer I am. No, man, he's like, check out how fucking badass we are as a unit. That's how he rolls. That's how Shannon rolls. Specifically, he and I and John Fonestock Toomer, because we played in MF Pitbulls together too. You didn't have to speak. We just look at each other. Sometimes we have a 4 count for a song, and he'd look at us and go 1, and we'd come in. He'd just go 1, and we knew exactly the tempo, and we just boom. boom, and then we come in. It was so fucking rad. And so that was my anchor, Shannon. But unfortunately for Shannon, he was a sitting target. I was a moving target. Don't kill him. We need that guy. Kill the drums, but don't kill the drummer. Stop. You're going to break him. Touch me, I'll touch you back. So that's how it was on stage. But this particular night, Casey came over, and he actually did. He wiped my pedal board off, and he ran into me, and the string broke, and I just was so like, that I pulled a move, and I lifted his guitar over my head, and I slammed it on the ground. Like, it felt like it went into a million pieces, and it snapped the neck. This is a 1971 Les Paul Custom, dude. He wanted to murder me after the show. He looked at me and he's like, I can't believe you did that. His teeth didn't come apart as he was saying the words. And I was like, man, we're amen, dude. We break shit. He would have broken me in half at that time. We would have been...
You've mentioned associating yourself as being a translator for Casey and being that anchor during the live show. Going further into this, how would you describe your relationship with Casey, or even your impressions the first time meeting him or working with him?
He's got these big old eyes, right? And man, he'll charm you with his eyes, at least back then. And he knew everybody, I knew. And he was like very personable. He and Shannon were the spearheads. Like, he would write all the stuff with Shannon, and then I would translate the guitar parts, and then we would go from there. But Casey was very, very instrumental in writing drum parts. Dude would remember somehow in the second chorus of Private Was in Your Private. He would remember in the studio that Shannon was going to go to the crash cymbal on the right instead of the crash on the left. He was like, oh, remember you were going to... And I'm like, how the fuck did he... He was so on it, dude. Which I really respect as a creator. You know, an artist. That's an artist. It's not just a musician or whatever. Because he wasn't the best musician. But he is whatever. An artist. Musical artist. And then later, as we started to get some success, especially in the UK, I could see the thing. I was like, oh. You know, we would talk all this shit about... We have a song called CK Killer. Bashing the fashion industry and tearing things down. But then he was wearing Calvin Klein underwear. And I think somebody called him out on it too, like in Metal Hammer or maybe Kerrang. They were like, funny. It's a picture of being Casey on stage. His shirt's up a little bit and they put an arrow.
I thought my jokes were bad.
So there was that. So, I mean, and everybody's got some hypocrisy, whatever. He just needed some fucking underwear, whatever. But it did not help at all that I was an active drug addict. And I don't really feel bad saying this. He was addicted to pills. He would shoot Percocets like they were gum. You know? Funny enough, I was worse than him. We had a couple talks where he was like, one talk in particular, man, where we had such a heartfelt conversation where he really was like, hey man, what do you need? Do you need help? I'm worried about you. I came to tears because I was so low in addiction. I remember exactly it was dark in my place and I was coming off meth. And so I was in this real broken, empty place of just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he called me and he was like, hey man. He was so gracious to me. Probably the closest I ever felt to him. He was so compassionate, man. He's like, dude, you don't have to do this. And he wasn't threatening. You know, I definitely got the ultimatum at one point and ultimately left because I got sober. That's why I left. But it just got worse after that. I got worse.
A nation of fools, a nation of lies. For 1,000 fools, for 100 lies.
You know, man, I have this memory now of like, I was up for like 3 days. I had somehow gotten a place with some friends of mine. I don't know if anybody out there ever did crystal meth, but if you did it for an extensive period of time, the come down is the complete opposite of the high. Same with heroin. If you do heroin, you come down and you can't sleep and you can't shit. With meth, you can't eat and you can't sleep when you're doing it, but then when you're coming down, it's like 20 hours a day sleeping. He called me one day, man, and I answered the phone, and I was in like a meth blackout, basically. And I said some stupid shit like I said, yeah, your mama. I said some stupid shit to him. And he told me later, he's like, man, you this and that, and I was like, I don't remember that phone call. I wasn't lying, it was true. So I was not in a good way, right? So there was always this tension between us. The relationship just wasn't that cool. And, he was pretty condescending to most of us. I mean, he just charged right on, without us. It became clear later that we were expendable.
I just don't feel like you appreciate any of it.
But I mean, if somebody quit the band, he was like, I'll get one look just like you. I'll replace you in a second.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it felt. And I know a lot of people. I got lots of friends who played in Amen. Flurry from Butcher Babies, he was a guitar player before me. He played with Paul Fig too. I think he was 2 guys before me. And then AC Slade, now he's in Misfits. Yeah, I think he played guitar in Amen.
Yeah, he did in 2004 or something.
The 2 raddest people to play in Amen, Paul Fig and Rich Jones, the guitar player who replaced Paul Fig.
And he would, of course, tour Australia with you guys for the 2002 Big Day Out Festival, which was something I'll never forget. But I still do have to say that I was absolutely devastated by missing out on seeing that classic era lineup with Paul Fig. But that show blew my mind, man. It was absolutely life-changing.
I'm glad to hear that, man. It's nice to hear that, honestly.
I think Amen were just in a really strange place if you look at it from a marketing point of view, because the self-titled album came out at the heights of the nu metal bubble. And so I feel in many ways it just kind of got thrown under the nu metal bus and left to fend for itself.
Yeah.
And because of that, it most likely got a little lost in the shuffle. But if you went to any Amen show, and I can speak from personal experience, the fans were passionate, the shows were amazing, and we were all so in love with everything about the band at that point in time.
Very much so, yeah. Especially in Europe and Australia, Japan too. I'm kind of tracking how I'm talking about certain things in this window that we're discussing. And you can hear me say, fuck off, Casey. And then you can hear me go, oh, God, he was so compassionate, man.
So would you say that was kind of the nature of your existence in Amen?
Yeah, dude. This is life.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
What songs from the Amen back catalogue did you love playing live back then?
Let's see. I really liked Down Human. I got to really be tight and precise. That right? So military-like, yet so volatile, so unhinged. Really liked Everything Is Untrue, though we've rarely played it. Coma America was always fun, but I wish it was twice as long. Damn, it's a short song. What's up? But then it's so perfect. When you listen to it, it's just furious. And then you're like, all right, let's just listen to it again, man. That's the first song I heard, and I was like, oh my God. And you know what it is when I first heard that song? I went, fuck me. I heard the thing that Ross was talking about, trying to capture, that I had to realize. I heard the fury. I was like, oh my God. And it was Casey. I was like, damn. I felt it. Blue Price of Reality, super fun. We Have Come For Your Parents. Oh, Justified. Super fun to play. Yeah. One of the fun things for me, again, being like the anchor, I think even on one of those Big Day Out shows, the breakdown in Price of Reality is me. Only 2 minutes straight. Yeah, he'd leave me out to dry, man, on that one part in Price of Reality. He would leave me just playing that alone in the middle of the song where the breakdown is. I swear to God, for like 3 minutes straight. I'm like, fuck me, man. I was like, but that was my job, y'all, so I did that job. I was like, they're probably getting bored, Casey. I've been playing this like insane riff for like 3 minutes. It's like 4 notes, man. Come on. Casey would be like talking some shit, and he'd go down in the crowd. And I was cool with it, but I was like, man, I've been playing this part for fucking 2 full minutes. That's a long time.
It's nearly as long as Coma America.
It's actually as long as that whole song. Yeah, dude. And I liked it. I was like, yeah, this is fun.
And speaking of fun, there is, of course, The Price of Reality music video. A-Man's first official music video, directed by the one and only Dean Carr, who just always seems to pop up in these episodes. Maybe it's time for him to come join the podcast. Price of Reality is one of my favorite music videos of all time, and if you're interested in hearing all about the making of the video, working with Dean Carr, and the experience in general, you can check out that chat with Sonny exclusively over at the Life Is Peachy Patreon under the Michael Bolton tier.
Sounds great, man. I would do this thing, and I still do it, man, where it's almost like I transcend the physical state, and I can watch it happen. I can watch what the body's doing without involving my brain, my mind, my thoughts.
And now for something completely different.
Oh my God, there was one time we played this French TV show. We played Mayday. That's a really fun song to play live too. Dude, it was weird. There's like these puppets and shit speaking French. It was so surreal. It was like, I was sober too, and it was like, I feel like I'm on acid. Am I having a flashback? Yeah. And that was another song where Casey fucking destroyed, tackled Paul Fig into his rig, and his sound was gone. Somehow catapulted off the bass rig, and it fell over and was gone, and then did a belly flop into the drums, and it was just me going na 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 na, like alone playing on French television, and people were just like, God. And it's just live studio audience and everything. It's like, what in the hell is going on here?
Angoulême, c'est à vous.
Sur la scène de NPA, amen.
We were in I think Italy. I can't remember what song it was. We came out and the ceiling was really low over the stage. Almost like columns along like rafters or whatever you might call them, but it seemed like they were stone or concrete or something. And Casey came out, bro, and fucking launched off the kick drum like to jump up and then land down for the impact of the beginning of the song. And he blasted it head first, bam, into the ceiling rafter. It just literally crumbled, but bam, just on the ground. And we're playing, the band's on. We're like, oh shit. Slide Casey off the stage into the backstage area. And so we kind of go, hold on, everyone. And we go back there, and he's unconscious. And we're kind of over him, and somebody splashed water in his face. And he sits up real fast. He goes, Mayo, start the song. And I was like, got it. Went back out, just started kicking back into the song, dude. He knocked himself out cold and came to saying, start the song. When we were doing We Have Come For Your Parents, we were at Sound City, but me personally, man, I was just falling to pieces, bro. While we were recording that album, I would be in the bathroom smoking meth. Because there were days where I would be there but wouldn't play a note. I would be in the bathroom smoking crystal meth, or I would run out of it and I'd be asleep on the couch for the entire day. And they would like call me Lord of Sleep. Or Lord of No Sleep, depending on where I was in my life that particular time.
I'll go get all the sleep I need when I'm dead.
Bro, this is something I want to highlight too, because my life is really about transformation. And so I would go off. My addiction was rampant when I was home, when I was in LA. We would go on tour, and I would sleep for the first 4 days because I ran out of meth. So I would literally sleep, eat, play the show. Sleep, eat, play the show. And then eventually I would detox, and then I kind of would be like on point. I would drink and do blow here and there. This is me trying to control and enjoy my addiction, my alcoholism. Which, even though they metabolize differently in the body, the condition I consider sort of the same, at least in my body. Alcoholism and addiction. And I use those two interchangeably. They're the same things in this body, in my experience. It's not about a substance. It's about the actual what happens after I put it in my body. And then what the solution is the same for either one. So we'd go on tour, and man, I missed so much when we went on tour in Europe because I was asleep in my bunk coming off that, or hungover or whatever. I missed so very much. I saw the inside of nightclubs and the inside of venues, and I didn't see shit after that. I went back to Portugal one time when I was playing in Ugly Kid Joe, and someone said, hey, after I was sober, hey, have you been here before? And I said, I'm pretty sure, I think so. I was like, oh yeah, we opened for Slipknot and Mudvayne. Yeah, I did play here. I saw the venue, I didn't see anything else. At one point, Amen sat me down. They were like, dude, it's either this or this. You either keep smoking meth and don't be in this band, or you stop doing the things you're doing and you can be in the band. And Ross Robinson's mom, for people who don't know, is basically a guru. Her name is Byron Katie, and she developed a system called The Work, quote unquote. And it's this beautiful system for taking inventory of oneself and releasing and coming to a truth inside of ourselves so that we can be free. So that's a very basic way of putting it. But it's action-based. She had this kind of like a little retreat center out in the desert, so they sent me there. Ross like, you can go to my mom's place and rest and go do the work and then come back and record this album. It was the third record. And man, I went out there for a couple days, slept for 3 days or whatever, and then came back before I was supposed to, and they were so pissed at me, but I was like, I'm clean, man, I get 5 days. And I started counting days, and we finished the record, and we were about to probably do Big Day Out later. I relapsed, man. It wasn't really a relapse because I never recovered. I never did the work to recover. And so after we did the record, I had a little bit of money. My bills were paid. My apartment was clean. And so I was like, oh, this is a great time to smoke meth. Let me call my dealer, right? Everything's in order. I've been doing good. I'm doing well in my life. So let's smoke meth. What the hell, dude? I was sick, man. I did not want to do that, but I couldn't stay away from it. That's addiction. I've started to fucking circle the drain again, but I kept it under control enough to when I finally hit bottom, I was still in the band at the time. I had completely hit bottom on December 30th of 2001. I didn't know how to stop my addiction, but I couldn't continue the behaviors. This is the bottom for me. Literally, my sobriety date is December 31st of 2001. I did not choose this day. It happened. I hit bottom on the 30th. The 31st happened to be the first day that I did not imbibe alcohol or take any mind-altering substances into my body. I got sober and I started going to meetings and I started taking steps, and then we went on the Big Day Out.
So you were actually sober for the Big Day Out tour?
Dude, I was in my first 30 days. I took a 30-day chip at an AA meeting, but I had like trained Rich Jones up. I taught him the stuff. And thank God for Rich Jones, man. I mean, what a great guy, man. I still love that guy. What a sweet, sweet dude. Luckily, he and I were roommates.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
The Big Day Out is funny, man. For anybody who doesn't know that's listening to the podcast, the Big Day Out, that was a cool tour, man, and was a festival tour. And so we affectionately refer to it as the Big Day Off, because what would happen is you play a show and then you have 4 days off because they have to take all the production of a massive festival and move it from Auckland to Brisbane and set it up for 2 days. And then you come play the show there and then they move it to Sydney. The Big Day Off. I was getting sober, man. So the show we play like noon or 1. My life had been changed. I hadn't taken the 12 steps yet, which if one is a drug addict / alcoholic, that is where the recovery is, the personal recovery. It's not just like abstaining from drugs. I can't do that. I can't just abstain. I have to do other things. I have to take action. But I hadn't taken them yet, but I had this like grace period, David. It was like this little respite, a little space. And I was eating and I was sleeping and I was wandering around Auckland. Ooh, me and Chavo and Rich Jones, we just would go out, like he and I and Chavo and our rep from Virgin in Auckland. She's like, you guys want to do anything? And I was like, yeah, I want to go to this beach, Piha. So here I am in the black t-shirt with Dead on the Bible written in safety pins and a pentagram. I think Shannon made me that. Yeah, Shannon made me this. It said Dead on the Bible written in safety pins. I'm wearing like 60 safety pins on the front of my shirt. I don't know what pants they were, but like some, fashion forward metal kind of shit. And then I had these big Fluvog boots on. And we went down to the beach and I was like, I'm going to go run barefoot on that black sand beach. And they all looked at me and they're like, we'll wait right here. So I crossed this little creek and took my boots off. So here's this like punk, metal, gothy looking guy running at full speed, newly sober, 17 days off meth and alcohol, yelling like, yeah! It was such a freeing moment, dude. That is like indicative of what was happening inside of me, irrespective of what was happening outside of me. That was 20 years ago, and I feel like I'm doing it right now. The black sand was like silk. And so I played this show. I played in front of 60,000 people. Fucking kill it. And then be like, okay, we're not going to play for 3 or 4 days. So I would wander around and explore, man, which I never did in Europe and these other places. Even Japan. The one time I went to Japan was with Amen, which was fucking phenomenal. We did 3 shows. It was insanely amazing. You're so good to us. And so, dude, we were playing these shows and I was on fire, bro.
I have so many memories of your performance that day. You were on fire, man, and anyone can check it out for themselves. The entire Gold Coast Big Day Out show is on YouTube. The link is in the episode description. There was this amazing deranged moment where you slipped the guitar back around so it was hanging behind you, down your back, and the strap itself was choking you. I had never seen anything like it before, and it's great because you can actually see it for yourself in the Amen playlist on the Big Day Out performance for I Don't Sleep.
David, that move is mine. I've never seen anybody else do it. It has a name. The Hangman.
When the hangman catches you, you hang.
What happens is, ultimately, my guitar is on my body and I swing it around in front of me so it goes to the right, so it's on my right side, and then I flip it over my back, so it's in fact choking me, strangling me, right? I discovered it by accident because I was freaking out on stage one night with Amen, just losing my shit. All of a sudden my guitar is somehow on my back, choking me. And if you crank your arm down, it actually tightens. And so these veins pop out in the head, and I'm just like, snot coming out of my nose. It was so disgusting and fantastic. Specifically, I was brand new. I was like, yes, fuck, it's awesome.
It just sounds like such a wonderful moment, and to happen on a tour like that and be in that headspace, to be clear and present and with a passion to explore and learn.
You're so right, it really was. What a fantastic gift to me. And the fact that I got to go with my friends, like I went around, I watched all these bands play, I hung out with the guys in NoFX, and I hung out with the guys from the Tea Party. I was a big fan of them at the time. And I was just like, yes. System. I was very close with those guys. I still am really close with Shabo. I came up with those guys when I was in Snot. We came up in Hollywood together. System and Snot were like 2 peas in a pod, dude. That was the fucking scene, bro. That 90s, mid-90s scene, late 90s scene in Hollywood, 96, 97, bro, that shit was on fire. Snot, System, Incubus, Cold Chamber. I mean, it goes on, man. Spine Shank. There were so many cool bands, dude. That was a fantastic time.
Man, LA has changed a lot during that time. The air got dirty and the sex got clean.
Drowning Pool was on that tour. You remember Drowning Pool?
Yeah, man, of course.
Dave was my buddy, man. Dave, CJ, and Mikey, those guys are my friends. One time we were walking through an airport, and, there was always fans around. It was super cool, man. They'd wait for you, whatever. And we would have, like, Snot fans in the airports, like me and John. Hey, what's Snot, And so this one day, Liam from The Prodigy walks up to me, and he's like, you're Sonny, right, from Amen? I was like, yeah, what's up, dude? Hey, the Firestarter recognizes me. And he's like, here, man. And he said, a fan, I met him, and they really wanted me to give you this photo. They took it in Brisbane. Here, they want me to give you this. And it was a picture of me and John with some fans who had, like, a Snot banner that they had made at the airport. And we were like, what's up? It's so funny because I look back at it, I could see the joy. I was like, yeah, I was on fire, dude. I was alive again. But the Firestarter handed me this photo. He's like, I told the guy I would do it, so here. And I'm like, man, you're a badass. What a man of your word. It was so great, man. Like, my people, man. I was like, I finally really was like, I'm with you now. I'm here.
You should make a radical change in your lifestyle. I mean, the core of man's spirit comes from new experiences.
Okay, so you were talking about your shirt with safety pins. For the big day out, I made my own Amen shirt, and I wore it with pride. I took a plain white tee and wrote Amen lyrics all over it in a big fat black marker and put rips into it. And leading up to the show, I remember writing out the lyrics for both albums and actually studying them. I already knew most of them because I listened to those two albums so much. But I still made sure I was ready and knew everything front to back, ready for any song that could be played. The night before, I was so excited. And on the day, I went straight to the main stage as soon as the gates opened. And so, along with a bunch of tent stages, Big Day Out was designed with 2 main stages sitting side by side for the main festival acts to perform. First up on that day was Australia's Super Heist, easily one of my favorite bands from back in the day and one of the best nu metal bands, period. And Joey Byro, the singer from that era, is actually my guest on episode 20 of the podcast. Funny enough, I talked a little about this particular Big Day Out with him too. But anyway, I was waiting front and center in front of the stage next to Super Heist, which would soon become Amen's stage for the second performance of the day. Super Heist were amazing. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them just fine. And finally, you guys hit the stage. To say I was overwhelmed is once again understatement of the year. And aside from poor Fig not being there and Chuma having cut his amazing dreadlocks, it was everything I could have hoped for. To see Amen finally perform live and to completely destroy. Casey jumping off the top of the amp stacks during Justified was absolutely insane. And coming out to crowd surf during Mayday, we all lost our minds and just wanted to physically touch Casey as he laid over top of us. Everything felt like a spiritual experience, and it blew my mind that tens of thousands of people were all together in one moment to worship and enjoy Amen. It was something, I guess I wasn't expecting, because I always felt like I was the only dude on the planet who knew them, especially in my high school. But just thinking about that show right now, it felt so good to completely let go to my favorite band and become super primal with everyone around me in that crowd and be completely high on music.
Sounds great, man. When I got back from the Big Day Out and started to like really get into my recovery, that's when I realized, oh man, this isn't me. And then I watched some stuff happen. I watched just some shit caving in and just watched, I watched Casey get mean to people on tour and do really fucked up shit.
Okay, so looking back, what would you say were the main reasons or the catalyst for deciding your time in Amen had finally come to an end?
I realized that playing in that band, the way that it was going, was not conducive to my serenity, which is a vital piece of actually staying sober, not just getting sober. Because I didn't ever do like the in and out of rehabs and stuff like that. Now, funny enough, I work in treatment centers now as a therapeutic musical interventionist, because I'm not a music therapist, but I do use music to help people in treatment centers, mental health, wounded veterans, and so on, called Rock to Recovery. And so I asked for help. I literally picked up the phone and I asked for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I went to a meeting down the street from my house that night. And I had been in AA before, but I was never in AA. I was never in recovery. And I was so desperate, dude. I was like, please help me. Just please help me. And they were like, yeah, man, we'll help you. Just have a seat, listen, talk sometimes, listen some more, talk some more, tell us about your relationship with drugs and alcohol, so on and so on. And so I started to get sober. And then 18 days later, I went on the big day out. And so, dude, I look at it like there is a grace period, at least there was for me, of being willing to ask for help and to do the things that it requires. Because just asking for help and people saying, we'll help you, isn't the solution. That's the start of it. But it's me taking the actions. I was in this place where I didn't realize at the time, but I was in a position of neutrality. I was safe when I went on that tour, Big Day Out. I wasn't going to drink and use. The band itself was on shaky ground with Virgin. I don't know what the details were. We had already recorded a bunch of stuff. So we had done that, but it was tenuous. It was like up in the air what was going to happen. And I wasn't really paying attention, bro. I was like, my life had just drastically changed. And I had $0 and 0 cents to my name. I got paid per diems when I was in Amen. Very glamorous life, everybody, on a major label. And I was making $175 a week when I was on tour.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money.
When I got home, I was like, oh shit, like what do I do now? And I was sitting with the guy who was my first sponsor, and we're sitting having coffee after a meeting, and I had 42 days sober. And my sponsor was like, hey man, what do you do? Like, well, besides playing in bands. And I was like, oh, I'm a vet tech. And he's like, okay, there's only like 10 animal hospitals in a 20-block radius around here, so let's start working on that. So I got a job. In fact, I got 2 jobs. And I really started to like break it down and do what the Buddhists refer to as chop wood, carry water. I just went to work, and I did my job, and I came home. And eventually, I had this realization that Amen was not where I was going to excel. And it was not conducive to my serenity, which is key to sobriety. Paul Fig had left the band. I was bummed about that. Fig was gone. Like, Rich Jones was in it. Before that, I was like, sitting with every single whatever guy that wanted to play guitar in Amen, auditioning dudes, but I would vet everybody. And I was like, man, it doesn't feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I actually called Shannon and said, dude, I'm going to leave Amen. And he said, me too. Literally, we did it at the same time. Once he quit Amen, Sully from Godsmack was like, oh. And then Shannon got the Godsmack gig like that. So he was in Godsmack right then and there. When I decided to leave the band, I told Casey. I can't remember if I called him or sat with him, but I said, yeah, Case, I know we have a couple shows set up through April locally. I want to honor those shows and play them, but after that, I'm going to leave the band. And rightfully so, Casey assumed I got another gig. What chick are you leaving me for, right? That's what it felt like. And I said, no, I'm not actually joining the band. I'm going to save my life. This is where I got to start. And he was incredibly cool with it. The last show I played with Amen was at the Troubadour in Hollywood, April of 2002. So I had 3 months sober. We didn't mention, like, this is Sonny's last show. I was like, I wonder if Casey's going to try to hurt me the last show. It was a fear that I had. I thought he was mad at me. I thought maybe I was, like, at fault, like I was doing something wrong. And he didn't, man. He was totally gracious. And we killed it. And, I mean, a lot of times he was a consummate gentleman. Not on stage, but in life, he was, very, whatever. Had a sordid past, hasn't he? I saw some shit on TMZ, or I heard some stuff. And so a couple times, because I give a shit, man, I do wish him the best. When I heard certain things, I'd reach out and be like, hey, man, just letting you know, I'm right here, dude, if you ever need me. And dude, when I left Amen, I left it, bro. I was out. Glad I walked away from that. And by the way, when I quit, I didn't stay in touch with Casey. Casey didn't stay in touch with me.
It's better to forget.
And I definitely stayed in touch with Paul Fick. John Fonestock and I, we're definitely friends, but we don't talk that often, even today. We check in and it's all love. And we know each other from 25, 26 years ago. So it's like, how's mom doing? Shannon went on to record some more stuff with Casey on occasion, which is totally cool. I did not. Being, one of the dozens of Amen guitar players. I feel like, I might hold the crown for being like in the lineup.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Casey, Paul, Chuma, Larkin, and yourself represent the lineup of Amen. And I feel most Amen fans would have to agree with me on that. That was Amen. That is Amen.
Definitive. It's a definitive years. Those are the things of playing those shows and having those moments, even when I was drunk and high, man. That European, Australian, and Japanese touring that I got to do with Amen. If I didn't get to do any of it past that, that was a gift to be involved in that. With those dudes doing what we were doing at the time. Because, I mean, I look back at it like it's pretty important. You obviously do. You're like, Amen. And then I'm sure you have all these bands that touch your heart. It's an era. It's like a blip on the radar. Why is it considered new metal? I don't know. It should be punk. I mean, Refused. That's who we should have been playing with, but they broke up already.
Yeah, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, brother. The shape of punk to come. We should have been playing with those guys. We just didn't have the scene for a band like us at the time. Some of this like post-hardcore, screamo or whatever, would have been a better fit for us. Where it's like sloppy but precise somehow, right? But we were early.
Drop that zero and get with the hero. Excuse me?
This is the end of part 1. To continue episode 22, please head over to part 2 via your streaming platform.